Hello, my name is Juliana Flores, and this is my reflection presentation for HCDE 313, Introduction to User Research, led by Sarah Zubrick and assisted by Robin Emerson. I selected my research topic to be on the student experience at the instructional center because as a former user, I noticed how this was one of the few study spaces in which students engaged with one another, often having non-academic conversations. I was intrigued by the atmosphere and sought to discover what it was about the center that made it successful. In order to investigate my question, I used the user research method, which required me to keep in mind who, what, where, when, and how, as I conducted field observations, interviews, and surveys. I began my research by completing fieldwork. Fieldwork would provide my research with the foundation of the user perspective. In other words, I would be able to learn about the context of people behavior in their surrounding environment. This slide shows a sketch of the space I observed at the IC, also referred to as the General Math Study Space. The highlighted blue squares are the spots from which I took observations. I completed a total of 3 30-minute observations all in one day. After my observation sessions, I cleaned up my notes and completed an affinity analysis to help me find recurring behaviors. From my analysis, I was able to gather 3 themes: headphone use, distractions, and peer-to-peer interaction. One thing I struggled with during my field observations was narrowing down what it was I should take note of and what actions or behaviors I essentially could ignore. Had I known and focused my research questions since the beginning, this would not have been a problem. So next time I do field observation, I need to make sure that my purpose is clearly kept in mind throughout my observations. Following the fieldwork, I completed interviews. The interviews would provide my research with a detailed understanding of the user intent and behavior. Essentially, it would help me unpack the meaning of the experience. I interviewed 3 participants who fit my criteria of using the general math room at the IC and being frequent users of the space. Out of ethical consideration, I kept my participants anonymous. After transcribing all 3 interviews, I did a thematic analysis. The image provided on the slide is my final version of my analysis. From my analysis, I was able to conclude that although the experience depends on the individual, some common factors were tutors, the tutor consideration for students' learning style, and time. Once again, something I struggled with was keeping my research question focused. The lack of focus impacted the quality of my interview questions and therefore impacted my interviews. On a bright side, because I was a user of this space, I was able to ask a few friends to participate in my interview. And because of this, and because we already had an established relationship, they felt comfortable in being honest with their responses. The final method to wrap up my research was conducting an online survey. Doing a survey would provide my research with quantitative data. It would also confirm, elaborate on, explore, or extend an idea. I used Google Form as the platform for my survey. My survey had a total of 12 questions and 20 people responded. Out of those 20 responses, I was only able to use 10. I analyzed the responses for my survey by using graphs. The graph displayed on this slide is one in which I took the weighted average of each factor I had identified to contribute to student experience to the overall satisfaction. From my analysis, I concluded that what was working well for the IC was the community it provided for its users. Meanwhile, the space size was what what most negatively impacted the student's experience. My survey questions um, were pretty effective thanks to Robin, and I liked the way that there was a flow from one question to the next. However, in the future, I need to be more careful on my word choice and make sure that my questions don't sound like they're the same when my user reads them. Overall, I had a very satisfying quarter doing research, and it is safe to say that over the summer I will continue to practice the user research method at Arizona State University under the supervision of Dr. Aaron Walker. This summer I will be researching how to better improve educational technology. Thank you, Sarah, and a special thanks to Robin.